There is a lot of buzz about peptides in the anti-aging and longevity world. Everyone seems to be talking about them. BPC 157 for healing, GHQ copper peptide for skin and hair, TP 500 for recovery, Epidolon for longevity, and of course collagen peptides for everything in between. But here's the real important question in my opinion. Which ones of these actually have evidence behind them, as in human trials? And which ones are more hype than science? Some of these don't have any human data. Most of them don't have strong human data. So I mean, that seems to be something we need to pay attention to, right? And how do you even take these peptides? Are those pills you pop? Do you inject them? Or do some of them come in a cream or a serum? Personally, I'm hesitant about injecting myself with something that isn't FDA approved. Not that FDA approval automatically means something is safe, right? Or that unapproved means ineffective, but injections feel like a different world compared to a serum or a scoop in a smoothie. So today we're breaking down the 5 big peptides everyone's talking about, what each peptide claims to do, what the research actually shows, how they're taken, and which ones might be worth for you to pay attention to. This is educational only. I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice. I'm just very passionate about longevity and I'm sharing with you what I'm learning. So here we go. Really quick, what are peptides? Peptides are short chains of amino acids that your body already uses as signaling molecules. Some of them tell the skin to repair itself, right? Some support collagen production. Some may help with healing or inflammation, but not all peptides have the same level of evidence, and that's where things get confusing. So peptide number 1, BPC 157. BPC 157 is a synthetic peptide that is based on a sequence found in gastric juice. Researchers originally became interested in it because the stomach lining heals rapidly, right? And this peptide fragment appeared to play a role in that regeneration. In animal studies, it has been shown to support tissue repair, gut lining protection, tendon and ligament healing, and reduce inflammation. It is most commonly injected subcutaneously near the injury site. It is also available orally or as capsules, though oral absorption is debated. Now, legally, it is only sold as a research compound, not as a supplement. But with a lot of these peptides that we are hearing about right now, almost all research is in rodents, and human trials are extremely limited. It's not FDA approved, purity varies, and it falls into the experimental bucket, in my opinion. Why would someone consider taking BPC 157? So BPC 157 is most appealing for people who are dealing with tendon strains, nagging joint injuries, or gut irritation, and are looking into experimental recovery tools often discussed in the biohacking space. It tends to attract athletes, climbers, runners, and lifters also who want something beyond stretching and ice. It's not for beginners, and it's definitely for someone who understands this is early stage research with limited human data and often used as a trial and observe approach. So my verdict, it's exciting, but early. A watch closely peptide rather than a sure thing solution. I would not take this right now. Peptide number 2, GHK copper peptide. This is one of the most well-studied topical cosmetic peptides, right? GHK copper peptide is a natural occurring copper binding peptide found in human plasma, saliva, and urine, and it plays an important role in tissue repair and regeneration. Levels are highest in our youth, and then they decline significantly as we age, like everything else, which is one reason skin becomes thinner, right, slower to heal, and less firm over time. And GHK helps signal the body to produce more collagen and elastin. It supports wound healing, it reduces inflammation, and it even appears to influence gene expression linked to skin repair. So it's mostly used in topical serums or creams, but also in some hair growth sprays and microneedling routines. Some clinics inject it, and people seem to have great results with it in terms of skin appearance, but also hair growth. So I want to emphasize that this is experimental, not mainstream, right? Injecting it. Mostly used in peptide clinics. There are biohackers who use GHK injections, often for wound healing and regenerative purposes. But again, no large human clinical trials exist for injected cosmetic use and safety. And also the purity depends heavily on the compounding pharmacy quality. I would stick with topical for now, even though some people say topical absorption is small. But I have to admit, I am very curious about injecting this. There are clinics that inject this into the scalp in combination with microneedling, and people are having great results. I mean, how wonderful would it be if we could stop taking finasteride, I don't take that actually, or minoxidil, which I do take, and just use peptides to keep our hair full. So, should you consider taking GHK copper peptide? It's great for someone who wants better skin texture, improved firmness, fine line reduction, or healthier scalp support without things that affect your hormones systemically or pharmaceutical strength topicals, right? So this peptide is ideal for people who already use skincare and want to upgrade to a more science-backed anti-aging routine. So my verdict: strong real-world evidence when used topically, and also safe, proven, and easy to use. But injections, still early, but very exciting. Before we continue with the video, I want to take a quick minute to tell you about the ASLF Hair Growth Boost Serum. This formula supports the scalp from multiple angles, helping circulation, calming inflammation and oxidative stress, and supporting a healthy environment for hair to grow. Our formula uses Densidol, which is a microalgae-based active, and it's combined with Bicapil, rosemary, ginger, licorice root, and vitamins A and C. Densidol blends vitamin C, amino acids, and microalgae extracts to energize follicles, support collagen around the follicle, and strengthen the scalp's extracellular matrix. In clinical testing, it increased the hair growth phase by 24%, boosted density by 11%, and showed over 10,000 more hairs compared to placebo. It works through several pathways, improving cellular metabolism, strengthening follicle anchoring, and supporting a more nutrient-rich scalp foundation. Now, Bicapil is a botanical complex shown to help stimulate growth. It increases density and also reduces shedding. Independent research on its key ingredient has demonstrated promising effects on follicle activity, and clinical trials on Bicapil formulas have shown reductions in shedding and improvements in regrowth. The next ingredient, rosemary extract, a real superstar. It supports circulation and has been shown in a 2015 study to perform similarly to 2% minoxidil for early stage thinning. Licorice root helps calm the scalp and may help reduce local DHT activity, while ginger extract offers antioxidant and antimicrobial support. Vitamins A and C round out our formula by supporting scalp hydration, collagen production, and antioxidant defense. So, if you want to take your hair routine to the next level, the Hair Growth Boost Serum with Densidol brings together science-backed ingredients to support a healthier, fuller-looking scalp. You can learn more at the link in the description box. Now back to the video. Peptide number 3. Collagen peptides. Not a signaling peptide, but one of the most proven oral peptides. They've been around for a while, and many people take them and love the benefits. Collagen peptides are essentially broken down collagen molecules small enough to be absorbed through the gut and used as building blocks for skin, joints, hair, and nails. Unlike many experimental peptides, collagen has multiple human clinical studies showing improvements in elasticity, hydration, and also wrinkle depth, and also joint comfort. That's a big one. I used to take collagen peptides for that reason. It's easy to take daily, it's widely available, and considered very safe. It is taken as a powder, sometimes also capsules. Some people stir it in their coffee, which I find a bit weird. I used to put it in my smoothie every morning to improve my joints, and it really helped. Collagen peptides work systemically. Our gut breaks them down into bioactive peptides that circulate and benefit skin and joints. Now, should you take them? Collagen peptides are best for whole body, beauty, and joint support, and appeal to people who want a simple daily routine that supports everything: skin, hair, nails, and joints from the inside out. This is often the first peptide people try because it's safe, it's inexpensive, and it's backed by human studies. But it isn't for vegans, since collagen peptides come from the connective tissues of animals, which are processed, hydrolyzed, and broken down into the bioavailable peptide powders. So my verdict: massive evidence base. It's a daily staple type of peptide, and it arguably is the most reliably effective one. Alright, peptide number 4, TB500. This is often grouped with BPC 157 in injury recovery discussions. TB500 is a synthetic fragment of a peptide naturally present in the body that helps regulate cell migration and repair. It's most talked about in the context of soft tissue healing, things like tendon strains, muscle tears, and recovery from overuse injuries. Most data comes from animal studies where it improved wound healing and reduced inflammation, but human research is still very minimal. Because of this, it remains an experimental option, mostly used in biohacking and performance recovery circles rather than mainstream medicine, right? It is primarily injectable, subcutaneous or intramuscular, and it's very rare as oral. We would digest peptides this large before they would reach any tissue. It is similar to BPC 157 in that it has strong rodent data with limited human evidence. It's often discussed among athletes and biohackers who are comfortable with research-grade injections and who understand the risk side. So my verdict, very interesting, but still experimental. Peptide number 5, Apidolon, a longevity peptide associated with telomerase activation. What does that mean? Telomeres, which are the caps that protect our DNA, shorten with age. So the theory is that supporting them could slow biological aging. Apidolon also appears to interact with the pineal gland and normalize melatonin production, which may improve sleep quality and help restore circadian rhythm. In rodent studies, administration of Apidolon has been linked with increased lifespan, delayed age-related diseases, and improved immune markers. But no large human longevity trials exist yet. So who is this peptide for? This peptide is interesting for people who are curious about telomeres and lifespan biology and who are open to experimental approaches rather than cosmetic outcomes. It fits someone who values preventative aging research and is comfortable with the fact that evidence is still very early. So my verdict, fascinating, but very early science, not mainstream. And that is it for today. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.